Welcome to the Daily Objective, day 92 of the war in Israel. I'm joined by Daniel Kraus, the producer behind the scenes when you're watching these shows and you hear me pause mid-sentence. It's usually because I'm either looking for the next word or because Daniel sent a message and I have to figure out whether it's something urgent that I should stop the show for or a joke that may or may not be funny, but definitely is badly timed. Hey, Daniel, how's it going?
It's pretty good. I just finished Catcher in the Rye. Have you read that?
No, you've already asked me, but not on the air. Yeah, I'm sure I'll get some angry comments about that, and I'll get some angry comments about what I have to say on this show. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing our job if we don't piss anybody off. So, part of the reason I wanted to do this today is this Wall Street Journal op-ed from a couple of days ago. The Wall Street Journal is one of the better sources out there. They had an op-ed titled "Your Aid Dollars for Palestinian Terrorists," and it says Biden's preferred rulers of Gaza still pay monthly stipends to murderers. Now, yeah, let's just set that context here and say, yeah, the Palestinian, among Palestinians from the Palestinian Authority, where they which controls Judea and Samaria in the West Bank or um, some territory there. Yeah, Palestinians get paid if somebody from their family is a terrorist. So, murdering Jews is is a high earning job among the Palestinian Authority. Now, we've spoken a little bit about it. I think we should speak maybe more because I think for the most part, other than the really pro-Palestinian side that wants in the West that wants the Jews exterminated, people understand that Hamas is an enemy that needs to be removed. People don't seem to understand that the same is true of the Palestinian Authority, uh, um, the PLO in the West Bank. So, Daniel, why don't I go to you and see any initial comments that you have before I go into some of the details here about Palestinian Authority.
Well, I just learned about this. It's called what's the name? It's called the Palestinian Authority Martyrs Fund. And I don't know how much like explicit can you get that it's like to support terrorism. But even if you look at it history, so it was founded in 64. Basically, it was founded for the Palestinian, how do you pronounce it? Fedayeen? Fedayeen?
Something like that.
The freedom fighters. An interesting thing there also it was that since then it's basically, yeah, like you said, it's a month if your family member.
Which
Yes,
year did you say it was funded?
64.
Founded? Oh, all right.
Uh, so basically if someone in your family, and it's explicitly for attacks against Israel. It's not like just a general, veterans fund or something like that. It's specifically for people who pursue violence against Israel. An interesting thing I also found out that normally it's a monthly payment, but it's only a monthly payment to your family if you are or if the person who died was a member of the Palestinian Liberation Organization. So if you are not a member, you just get one time sort of reward and that's it. So clearly it's made to basically drive the support for the PLO and, maybe even drive the sort of PLO is the democratic sort of representation of the Palestinian people. I can tell you a little bit more about countries who had some issues with this, but do you have anything to say now?
Yeah, let's get to that in a moment. So just back to the point that it's 1964. This was around the founding of the PLO, around the founding of the idea of the Palestinian people as Arabs living or who have lived in that area, prior to 1948 or afterwards. But in 1993, the Oslo Accords were signed. This was peace between Israel and the Palestinians, specifically the PLO. So was dismantling this not a part of that peace agreement?
Well, clearly not. And I am not surprised since, from what I read, this sort of payments, the martyr payments, are incredibly popular. Some have even described it as the part of the Palestinian society. And I think it's right. It's definitely, if you are a Palestinian, you are definitely against Israel. This is like, I'm always, the more I read about it, the more I'm like surprised. And the more I read about the whole Israel-Palestinian conflict, the less I'm surprised about all these little things that I find out.
Yeah, now there, I've seen some thank you, Dini, for becoming a YouTube member. I've seen these man on the street interviews with Palestinians, kind of meme style, man of the street interviews generally. I have a problem with them. It's easy to make someone look stupid, and it's often the only purpose of I think more often than not, the only purpose is to make people who don't share your views look stupid. But man on the street interviews with Palestinians, people ask them, can you name any famous Palestinians or any achievements of Palestinians? I mean, the irony there is that, first of all, if you do a man on the street interview of Palestinians in Judea, in Samaria, in the West Bank, or in the Gaza Strip, it's easy for them to name a famous Palestinian. The streets are often named after them, and they are terrorists. Those are the achievements. Now, the achievements among Palestinians. Now, um, the thing is, you can't name achievements that are not killing Jews related, because there is no need for achievement. If America pays, then you can focus on achieving your and pursuing your values, and the value of Palestinian society is killing Jews. And so we need to really make it clear that this is what this money goes towards. Even if any of America's money or some of America's money does go to whatever it's supposedly meant to go to, it frees up time and resources for the Palestinians to pursue what they actually want to pursue, rather than having to deal with reality and make sure they survive of their own achievements.
And just to say, it's no small money. So typically it's around $400 a month, which, for if you are living in America, it might seem pretty low. But like for Palestine, like for Slovakia, that's not a, that bad of like a retire. Well, it is a bit low, but Slovakia is a bit more developed. For Palestine, 400. And interesting thing is that if you are caught, well, you are in for something great, because the longer you are held prisoner, the it raises higher and higher, and I think up to over time it can be up to $3,300 a month.
Which is insanely high, if you're living in the West Bank or Gaza. And of course, this goes back to the issue of Palestinians don't mind being prisoners. They get money for being prisoners. They get released for whatever they did because they take hostages. That's a whole other topic which we've covered in the past and we'll cover in the future of why hostage deals encourage future hostage taking, although it's not difficult to understand. Yeah, did you want to mention the countries that
Yeah, so one more statistics I have. So in 2016, the Palestinian Authority paid out 300 million US dollars in this sort of stipends and other benefits. And after that, and after some countries found out that it's actually going to like an actual terrorist, uh, some countries had a problem with it. So I saw that Australia has stopped these payments in 2017, and it would be really funny because they gave it to UN Humanitarian Fund for Palestinian authorities. For a second, I thought it's UNRWA, which would be really funny if they took money from the PA and just gave it to UNRWA, like that doesn't have a terrorist inside of them. Then Germany has expressed some concerns, but that was pretty much it. I know that from what I read, Netherlands stopped. And interesting thing I saw is also that Norway demanded that their money doesn't go to this fund. A PA said, okay, your money will not go to that fund, but they kept sending the money to the PA, which I mean, if money comes, you can just do whatever, or j money is fungible basically. So if you get some money, it doesn't mean that just because it's going somewhere else doesn't mean that it doesn't support that other thing, because it just means it relieves some pressure from money demands here, and you can just put them there. So and yeah, then there's of course the United States, which we should talk about a bit more. I know that Trump, I think, cut it down a little bit, maybe by like 15 or 20% or something like that, to the Palestinian Palestinian Authority as a whole, not just this specific fund. And we also know that Biden basically uh, walked back on this cut, and I think sent a bit more.
So I want to read a paragraph from this op-ed, which, by the way, I recommend reading the whole thing. It is from January 4th. So paragraph goes, Israel, which collects tax revenue for the PA, the Palestinian Authority, is currently withholding the 30% of it that the PA sends to Hamas-run Gaza. Mr. Abbas has refused to accept the remainder, and Mr. Biden is unhappy about the impasse. Axios reported last week that the disagreement led to, quote, one of the most difficult and frustrating conversations between conversations Biden has had with Netanyahu. So Israel is saying, okay, we'll keep sending money to the Palestinian Authority after October 7th. But specifically that part that is sent to the people who did October 7th, we are not going to give you. And Biden is upset about that. Uh, Americans, the country where we get the most views is the United States of America, even though we are Ayn Rand Center UK. I very much encourage you to, do what you can to raise awareness of this. This isn't going to change overnight, but this is a very, very serious thing that you should consider. And again, the reason we are covering this topic every single day is because it's not just Israel's war; it is all our war, and America should be aware that it has this enemy. Another point I wanted to make, but let's go to you first.
Yeah, I just want to say, can you remind me, why is Israel giving money to the Palestinian Authority again?
If you want a justification for it, I can't give it to you. If you want an explanation, it is for whatever agreements that Israel has, and of course, these agreements shouldn't have been made in the first place. We did a whole show on why Oslo shouldn't have happened, why since Oslo, in the 30 years since the Oslo Accords were signed until now, there have been many, many, many moments when Israel's leadership, whoever was in power, should have said, you know what? Now this proves that it was the wrong thing to do. And by the way, sometimes they say it, but they keep they follow through. You can change course if you don't agree with what the previous leader did. Like you mentioned, Biden didn't agree with Trump cutting money to the Palestinian Authority, so he reversed course on it. So any Israeli leader who has spoken out against Oslo but followed it, yeah, the words don't count in that instance.
Uh, I mean, I'm just trying to make a joke in my head again, something about the previous prime minister, or the prime minister that had a term before Netanyahu, has also called these payments an incentive for murder. This is a quote actually from Netanyahu, but it's not like he really talks nice.
Is that Yair Lapid or is that
No,
Bennett?
no, no, it's actually Netanyahu. Like I was trying to make a joke about him like
Oh,
serving multiple terms. Didn't work. But yeah, he called it an incentive for murders, but it's not like, again, it's not like he was in power for long enough to basically deal with this issue.
yeah, which is why, we've said Netanyahu's book it should be offensive to people because it's so right and so opposite what he's saying. If you say that something is an incentive to murder and to murderers and you keep doing it, what does that say about you? Now, I think by contrast, we are an incentive, in supporting Ayn Rand Center UK is an incentive to life and to Western civilization, no longer apologizing for its existence. And thank you, Kathleen, for being a part of that. And thank you for your super chat. So, you know, what's going on right now with the Palestinian Authority? Now, why is this? They've become, America has been openly saying that the Palestinian Authority should be the ones to take over Gaza after Israel gets rid of Hamas. Um, has anything changed on October 7th with the Palestinian Authority? No. So what is this sudden uh, idea that they are the ones that the West should look to. So really, the only reason for America rekindling its love affair with the Palestinian Authority is the fact that the Palestinian Authority were not the ones who did October 7th. Basically, having sat there, watched it, cheered it in many ways, but not being the ones to have actually done it. Although there were Fatah members, the ruling party in the Palestinian Authority, who were involved. But yeah, not being the ones means you get rewarded. This is something that we can't repeat often enough. The enemy of your enemy can be your enemy. It doesn't necessarily mean because two factions are fighting somewhere who both hate you, you should pick who is supposedly the less bad for you and then uh, support them. We've said this about the Iran-Iraq war and the argument that the U.S. Here's Rumsfeld shaking Saddam Hussein's hand. So why is America going to war with Iraq? We'll hear this again about the Palestinian Authority when they are the ones doing an October 7th style attack. So yeah, you can have more than one enemy. Unfortunately, Israel is surrounded by enemies. It should acknowledge that. It should not try to figure out who among those enemies is actually a friend. None of them are. Thank you, Jeff, for the super chat.
And yeah, because you mentioned Oslo Accords, and me and James Valiant did an episode about sort of the history of how basically we got here. And yeah, this whole idea, well, let's just give Gaza to the Palestinian Authority, let's reform it, let's let them have election, and that will basically solve this issue. Well, this exact thing happened. We Gaza used to be occupied by Israel. Israel gave it to the Palestinian Authority. Palestinian Authority took over. They had election. Hamas won in Gaza, and Hamas took over Gaza. I mean, this exact thing happened. Like, I'm wondering what is exactly. Like, I know Americans are not the best in history, but at least I would hope the leadership would have a decent grasp of it and would understand that there are things happen, and if you do them in a certain way, especially if you do them in a certain exact way, the exact thing is going to happen. If the Palestinian Authority takes over Gaza, October 7th will happen again. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, and I don't I always try to give the benefit of the doubt, although with politicians it's very difficult. I don't know if there's this hope, maybe if it doesn't happen on my watch, nobody can blame me. I've always thought that this is Netanyahu's approach to the Palestinians. He's been there long enough that it did happen on his watch, but even if it hadn't, I think he would have shared some of the blame. I assume this is a part of I don't actually assume. I would hope for Biden's sake that this is a part of his thinking. If not, it's much more sinister than that. Bonnie says Canada and UK super chats work, but maybe not the US. Maybe Biden doesn't want you to super chat. I'm kidding. That's not actually what I think. By the way, speaking of the US, Monday on the reality show, we do have the ARCUK Republican debate. Now, when we call it the Republican debate, let me just make it clear that none of the Republican candidates will be here, but some of us will be here. We would like to see different candidates win. That's going to be an interesting one. It's going to be an interactive one. We're going to have voting. So if you can watch that live, you should. It'll be at 6 p.m. UK time, 1 p.m. Eastern. Daniel, anything we haven't covered on this? And actually, yeah, actually go ahead and then I will add something.
So let me just I mean, I guess I can make this one point that yeah, I mean, everyone who looks at this uh martyrs fund should be like, okay, why are we supporting them if they have this? And the only reason I can like come up is sort of I don't want to say multiculturalism, but yeah, basically sort of, well, we also pay our veterans when they go to war, so why shouldn't they pay their veterans to go to the war? It's the only way I can sort of like make sense of why anyone would be okay with like this sort of thing existing. But again, we read that this fund wasn't just made as sort of general veterans fund. It's specifically for people who go against Israel. It's specifically to support it. It's specifically to, yeah, make it bigger. I mean, there's no other reason.
Yeah. By the way, nobody in the West gives money to people who go out and kill, and slaughter, like behead babies and rape women. So yeah, I don't like the comparison. I also don't. Yeah, I understand the comparison. I don't like it. There's also the issue of, okay, this side is paying for a war. This side is paying for a war. Well, one side is the aggressor who caused the war and is completely unjust, and the other is right to fight and should fight stronger than it is fighting already. Thank you, Jeff Bannister. He says contributing for Bonnie. This is to keep Bonnie's streak alive. Pay it forward, Bonnie. Thank you, Jeff. So actually, yeah, I wanted to quickly, but very quickly touch on tomorrow's topic because I want people to tune in tomorrow. So we're not going to say a lot of what we have to say about this until tomorrow. Tomorrow's daily objective is titled Israel's Disastrous Day After Plan. And this is not an official plan yet, but it is a 4-point plan presented by Yoav Gallant, Israel's defense minister. It needs the approval. It will cause some sort of uh, verbal civil war within Israel's cabinet meetings, but it's there's a Telegraph article, and I'm sure there are articles in other news outlets. You can find it out there. Israel's rhetoric in since October 7th, from October 7th until today, you can see the changes in it. It was very strong. It was very strong at the beginning. It almost sounded like Israeli leaders knew what they had to do. I think the Israeli public, for the most part, knows and still knows. Yeah, but yeah, you can see the leadership's resolve completely, pretty much completely gone. And now all they are thinking about is diplomacy. All they are thinking about is appeasing Biden. Um, and yeah, we'll talk about that tomorrow. But I think I can quote myself again, but I don't have that tweet in front of me. But yeah, Israel needed to do what needed to be done on October 7th, on October 8th, in Gaza, in the West Bank, in southern Lebanon, at the very least, those three fronts. Today was the worst day in the north of Israel in terms of attacks by Hezbollah from the north, and Hezbollah said this is just the start. They are supposedly responding to the killing of al-Aruri in Beirut, but of course this is what they exist for. So Israel is, I think, really, really, throwing away what could have been actually a real game changer, and it doesn't look like they're going to do what's right. There are some ideas, unofficial ones, that will effectively let Hamas the worst people among Hamas get away with it. Literally get away with murder. So thank you, Gail, for the super chat. Thank you, Ginger, for the very generous super chat. She says, thank you for your continuing clear coverage, thrive and grow. Thank you. And
Can I make a quick comment about those points?
yeah,
Because I just read up on. So I remember the sort of 3-point plan for Gaza. It was basically uh, airstrike or bomb as much as you can out of it, then ground operation, and then complete the Hamasization, basically complete the de-radicalization, completely get rid of Hamas with no mention of anyone else. It's just Israel doing it. And yeah, this plan is some sort of multinational force led by US with partners from Europe and other Arab nations to reconstruct Gaza. The Palestinian administrative mechanisms are going to be maintained. Egypt will play a big role, and Israel will retain military control on the borders and the right to take military and security actions. And if they get attacked again, will they go back in again? And will the other nations actually respect this? That Israel will try to go back in and do another action there? I highly doubt that.
Yeah, there's a term in marketing that slips my mind, but what it's basically the same product, but you put a different brand on it. This is the
Rebranding?
day after plan in what?
Rebranding?
No, there's like something specific where it is exactly the same,
Uh,
but just call it something else. I don't know if anybody in the chat knows, but anyway, yeah, that unfortunately is what seems to be happening the day after. Now, Israel has had some success, and Hamas is much weaker than it was, but that should not have been the goal. That wasn't the stated goal. As I said, I think the stated goal was not enough, and the stated goal is not seemingly not going to be achieved. Um, yeah, somebody says in the chat, depressing. Yeah, it is depressing. I'm sorry we can't be more optimistic. If you scroll back on the channel to things that we did up until October 6th, we were not as pessimistic. We were pessimistic about some things, but no, it's not bait and switch, and it's not generic brand. I don't remember what it is. If I manage to remember it or somebody reminds it, you can put it in the chat.
and if you want to see how Israel at least took some action at some point, we have a video about the Six-Day War, which I think almost won one of the Ayn Rand Center UK awards in 2023. So it's definitely a good one to check out.
Yeah, for Ayn Rand Center UK members at the platinum level or higher, the Philosophy Forum starts in a couple of minutes. This is the first of the year, and it is now weekly. Some people from the channel are will be on there, and of course it's a Zoom call, so you can interact with them. And I think I will join for some of that as well. We will be discussing several topics, one of which is the Republican candidates for president. I'm sure that'll be heated. I don't know if it'll be as heated as Monday's debate, which of course you should all watch. And yeah, tune back in tomorrow for our show about Israel's disastrous day after plan. Again, if you think this content is valuable, if you are as worried as we are, this is, we're doing as much as we can to fight back, to change people's minds. So even just clicking like helps, but sharing, certainly subscribing if you're not subscribed, and commenting in the regular chat also helps push this up in the algorithm. Thanks, Daniel. Thanks, everyone, for watching. We'll see you back here again tomorrow.